Hey, how's it going? A special episode of Lost Like Mike. I'm your host, Mike Gonzalez. This is the 100th episode, or technically 101, but I digress. This is the 100th episode. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for coming by and hanging out. Thank you for checking in on me as I'm checking in on y'all. Life happens, man, when you're trying to figure it out. We recently just switched from going from, posting the shows on Sundays to recording and posting on Wednesdays. And of course, in the natural order of things, things come up. And I'll be honest with you, this particular time, I had a bit of a domestic squabble, and it's layered because it was a stupid argument over a dumb subject. It's not, it's borderline comical, but at the same time, in the worst way. So just know that the argument itself was useless and stupid. But it threw me off of my entire game. It was one of those where you end up having dinner alone kind of things, and just and no excuse, but just the reality of the situation was I just lost track of what day it was, lost track of what I was doing, and just it ended up being the end of the night. And I told myself I was supposed to record the episode, so I ended up saying I want to bump it to Friday, and here we are. So anyway, welcome to another episode. 100th episode. It's a big deal for different reasons. I got this little digital card from Buzzsprout, who hosts they offer the platforms that I post my podcast, and congratulating me on 100 episodes. Of course, they sent it already because, as I said, we had an episode 0, so they count it as we've already had our 100th episode. But I didn't want to post it anywhere. It's that paradox, that contradiction that is who I am. I had this little digital card, and it means a lot to me, though. If you ask yourself, and this is for anybody who has issues or has a hard time with consistency or with discipline, doing 100 of anything is difficult. Doing something once a week for 100 weeks, for 101 weeks is difficult. It is. Especially when we talk about on this show, the very subject of the show is me dealing with the things that hold me back, the anxieties or the depressions or the different obstacles that make you not want to do an episode every week for 100 weeks. And really without any type of partnership. Nobody's doing this with me or helping me out. No editors or writers or contributors, no co-hosts, no anything. I don't object to that. I would welcome any of it. But anyway, so yeah, it's to me, it's a big deal. And I feel that I've been honest, and I've had a good time making these conversations, these monologues, or however you want to view it, coming on here and sharing what's going on in my life or what I'm feeling about the different things. But for whatever reason, I don't want to promote it or to put it out there. So that's the contradiction. But anyway, so on this 100th episode, I do have some things to talk about. I have some things on my mind. First of all, the fact that I am doing this on a Friday night, and it does bother me that I'm late, but carving out time is what this is all about. It's sort of tussling through the things that I'm having to do, and like I said, in terms of like time management, if you don't do it when it's time to do it, like I just forgot on Wednesday, then it causes a big old upheaval, and like here you are trying to figure out what am I supposed to do. So it does seem like I'm going to talk about like Father's Day, and it seems so far removed because it was last Sunday, and here we are coming up on Sunday. And I had this initially, a lot of the show was going to be about, what I wanted to talk about was about, Father's Day sort of things, like, but I had a good Father's Day. It was funny. Well, I had a conversation with my son, and we were on the phone. He wanted to take me out to dinner, which in and of itself is a kind gesture, right? It's a Father's Day gesture. He's saying that he wants to acknowledge me, whatever. So I'm satisfied with that. But I put my foot in my mouth, or I did what I do, which was I mentioned something about, I said like in a hint way, like, hey, just waiting for you to say it. Really, I could just be happy with you saying it, like, Happy Father's Day. And it was in, however, the awkwardness of me saying it, because we were trying to sort out where to go to dinner. We were trying to figure it out because it was going to be it was going to be like a cup of coffee, slice of pie at like after my show on Sunday night. But we just couldn't make the arrangement. And anyway, he was like, well, I was going to say it, but now it's all weird and awkward. And if I say it, you're going to feel like I said it because you told me to say it. But he doubled down, and like he didn't say it at all. Like, I was like, dude, I mean, I get it. I made it all weird, but even at the end of the conversation, I mean, text me at the end of the night, whatever it is, Anyway. And there's this deep-seated sort of like issue that I've always had, because his great-grandparents played an integral part in his upbringing because of the circumstances that we've talked about in the past, on this show, in large part. And to briefly recap, I mean, basically, his mom and I didn't see eye to eye. We didn't stay together, and they were her support system to help raise him. Not for lack of me wanting to be in his life, but because that was just, offering him stability, and it was the way that it ended up being. But You know, it's one of those, it's the big tragedy of the story is that inevitably when you only see your child for a limited number of hours, um, one day a week, and sporadic occurrences of different, of like ball games and music recitals or what have you. Um, don't get me wrong, he loves me, I love him. You know, he's my son. It's nothing I wouldn't do for him, and I feel like I've done a good job maintaining a relationship with him. But when you're spending the majority of your time with this male role model, his great grandfather, they have a very close bond, and there's always been a little bit of a. I remember when he was like 15 or 16, he made a comment to that extent that man was always in his life and really shaped his character, you know. And it was, I didn't handle that moment well, but I didn't deny that that was true, but you know, I needed it to be put into context. I needed to be put in perspective that in his mind, even though I know he knows, it was of no choice of mine. I wasn't some absentee father, some, you know, cats in the cradle kind of distant dad that didn't want to be around, that wanted to pursue other things instead of being a dad. I had no problem stopping the world and just being there for him. It was of no choice of mine to not be with him. And you know, I was his age before, and I said hurtful things unintentionally to my parents. So I get it, and I don't fault him for his candor or his interpretation of how life was for him, because that's his reality. That's what he knows. But it's one of those, it needed to be said that, you know, because the reality of the situation for me, that's all I ever wanted to be, was his role model, I wanted to influence him and to shape him and to make him into a better human being than I am. But, you know, to offer him guidance in a way that I didn't think that I really had in a lot of ways, you know. I love my parents. It's not about that. It's just my mom and I got into a conversation about it the other day where she said, you know, basically saying that I was a bit of a helicopter parent, that I hover over my child a bit, and that I'm a warrior, and that I have a tendency of projecting my fears onto my child. She's talking about my daughter. But she's referencing from experience with her observing my relationship with my son. Here's the thing. You know, and people, it's almost hacky or like cliche to talk about kids growing up in the 90s or in the 80s. But the reality of the situation was, I mean, I could tell you, being 5, 6, 7 years old, you know, playing in the front yard on a bike by myself, riding in through the neighborhood, 8, 9 years old. I remember riding, maybe being five or no, I couldn't have been, maybe like 6 or 7, on a tricycle, kind of like 3-wheeler, and riding into the street and nearly getting hit by a car. But and nobody knew. Nobody saw me. Nobody was aware of me being out there. It's just the way it was. I remember playing marbles in the front yard by myself, and an older kid from the neighborhood scamming me out of all my marbles because I was unattended. I was just sitting by myself in the dirt, and I'm not, believe me when I'm saying, I'm not painting a picture of like, woe is me. That's not my point. Like, I had a great childhood, and one of which, but don't get it twisted, one of which I'm lucky to be alive. There's so many stupid ass things that I've done all throughout my youth, my teen years, that only by the grace of God, or by the luck of the draw, or by just happenstance, am I where I am today. And I make no argument that I am who I am because of what I've been through. That's probably true to an extent. But, I mean, and that's one level, right? And there's a lot of things that, I mean, where there's probably the possibility of permanent damage in certain instances of doing reckless things and messing up my knee, and that were, unnecessary, hurdles that I have to face. I mean, smoking cigarettes, just like I recently went to a doctor visit. I don't know if I talked about it. I probably did. I don't know. I was having my yearly physical, and they were talking about, I did mention it, but it bears repeating, that, I'm almost to this age where the consequences, even though I quit smoking, like 10 years ago, I smoked long enough that the residual effects are still gonna happen, or they still are on the radar. Like, I'm gonna have to do, my lungs are gonna have to get tested when I turn 50. My bone density is gonna be affected. I mean, just, and I don't, nobody, my parents didn't put cigarettes in my hand. They didn't tell me to smoke, but there was no consequence. There was nobody was telling me anything otherwise. As a matter of fact, I think I got, for a period of time, I had my mom smoking again. She had quit, and she found out that I smoked, and she decided to smoke at the same time. No cautionary tales is my point. No, hey, you shouldn't do that. Like, it's stupid to do that. Just, I mean, maybe a little borderline disappointment, but I guess when they finally found out was much later. And I was already hooked by that point. I think I had been smoking since I was 16, 15, 16, something like that. 16, I believe. But not to mention, anyway, I don't want to get into all that. It's unnecessary. Bottom line is, that's on one level. It was just, I wish that I had a more stern influence growing up. They kind of were ready to let me make my own mistakes, which is cool, I guess, in terms of it, like, okay, I'll give you an example. My daughter has these pains, and I get it. She has what I had growing up, and then some. Maybe she had exactly what I had, and nobody ever, no, it was never diagnosed. But I used to have these severe pains in my legs. And it was, it would happen throughout the day, but it would be excruciating in the evening hours when I was trying to sleep. And I recognize it in my daughter. I see it. And my parents would always say, it's just growing pains. Like, just tough it out. You'll be fine. And my wife takes my daughter to specialists. She was, is trying to research it, trying to figure it out, finding out all these things about my daughter's, bones. I mean, granted, my daughter was born with hip dysplasia, and there was other things that came along with that, right? But my point is that I'm like, where's that research coming from? Where's that interest in trying to figure things out? That it just wasn't there, with me growing up. And maybe in terms of apples and oranges, of like it was two different eras, two different generations, time frames, whatever. And the jury's out. Maybe we're the ones doing a disservice to my daughter. But so on the one level, there's that. And then I keep saying that. On the second level, I remember there was a couple instances where the second that I'd back off and say, you know what, like my son was standing behind me and he was bouncing on the bed and holding my shoulders. Little baby. He was a small, of like 3-4 years old, and he's bouncing next to me. I'm patting his hand and whatever, and he's holding onto my shoulder. And in one instance, as soon as I don't give like the helicopter hovering over him, he bounces crooked and does a beeline, is face first into the corner of a drawer, a dresser, a nightstand, whatever. It was just a corner, and busts his lip. I thought, well, shoot, there you go. The second I relax and step back. Or like, I took him bike riding, and we were going on a bike ride when he was a little bit older, maybe 13, 14. And bike riding, I felt, was something that, it's like a coming of age thing. Like, I was showing him that what I used to do as a kid, and what, my cousins and I, we would all ride these bikes, and so this would be fun. And then there he is trying to do what I'm doing, and he does a front flip and busts his ass and, gets real hurt. And I'm like, well, there you go. And I don't think that I'm a helicopter parent per se, but I think I know where she's coming from, but I'm trying to explain that, my job is to prevent the stupid mistakes that are inevitable in her growing up from causing permanent damage, is my whole thing. And I encourage her to do things that that are outside of my comfort zone, getting onto scary rides or whatever. If she feels inclined, I want to encourage her to do so. I also don't want her to feel like peer pressure is something she has to fall victim to. I mean, and I feel like in a sense that's partially why I don't just, I pick and choose the fears that I challenge in front of her, because I don't want her to be like with a group of friends and be like, we'll jump off this bridge and do that just because she feels pressured into facing that, some fear or whatever. You can probably hear my voice is still garbage. And I apologize for continuing to drink, while talking, but as I said, my doctor told me I would have to take like 2 weeks off of talking, singing, and I'm supposed to schedule an appointment with a specialist, but my doctor feels that it would that I definitely need some quality rest, and it's just not going to happen anytime soon. I don't think so. Anyway, and the rest of the Father's Day was just pretty normal. We went to a lunch, my daughter and my wife, and we painted a little bit. There was an estate sale. We had found out about this. She was an art teacher, and she passed. And I have like an arts and crafts dresser. It has like these different shelves, like different drawers, and it has all different kind of just stuff, so I could pull out canvases or paints or stuff to glue and construction paper, stuff like that. This entire house was just one big giant art drawer, and it had just all kind of stuff. I felt really bad, but anyway, all I wanted to do on Father's Day was chill and paint. Do something creative with my daughter was the point. And I didn't want to run around and do festivities. Like, that's the big thing. I think whenever you are doing a day like if it's your birthday or if it's people often will try to hijack the celebration of you and occupy it with things that they think you would like because it's what they like or what they feel like you should like as a human being. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a very beautiful thing. And if somebody cares about you enough to even do that, you should feel grateful and blessed, right? But if, in truth, one should ask the person, listen, to the letter, what do you want? What, if somebody says, I don't want a surprise birthday. I don't want to, I don't want a big thing. I want to, there should never be a time where you go, you say that, but I know. I think that's BS. I think that never is the way to go. Recently I saw my mom on Mother's Day, and I bought her, we had a conversation over the phone, and she wanted, and she spelled it out. And I said, I hear you. You're, but to be clear, you're saying XYZ. She wanted a radio that had a big knob to turn the dial to look for this, like old style. And she said, no tape deck, no CD player, no, MP3, no anything else. No means of, just a simple ass tuner, AM, FM radio. And we had a brief conversation about, well, this day and age, that's really like the secondary. You sure? And it was just like, this is what I want. If, you're going to get something, right? And I showed up to our, we were going to hang out for Mother's Day. And she made some comment about how she had wanted that for 60 years. And that when she had asked for it in the past, that my father showed up, with the big stereo system, all this kind of thing. And that she was obviously thankful and yeah, thank you, But more so than not getting what she wanted, she felt that she wasn't heard, right? Because if you come to me and you say, look, I really don't want any more than this, I just want this. If you give me something that's not going to be what I wanted, and then I show up and say, listen, I know you said, but this was half off, or this was a better price, or this is a better deal. Eventually you're going to want this, or whatever, the fill in the blank. I think you fail on two different fronts. On the one hand, it's not what they asked for. And on the other, it's a disregard of somebody's, what they want, what they requested. You know what I'm saying? It's a slippery slope, man. I mean, I remember this one kid that I worked with. He's a nice young man. And he intuitively would know what you wanted. Or like a thoughtful gift where it was like, oh snap, like I didn't even say this out loud that I needed this, and that's so sweet of you, thank you. Yeah, but that doesn't happen often. But I think anytime somebody pulls you aside and says, this is what I want, then I think that you do a disservice by disregarding that. But anyway, so when my wife had asked, the point of saying all that was that my wife had asked me what I wanted to do for Father's Day, and I said, absolutely nothing. But then retreated and said, I just want to paint. I just want to hang out. I don't want to go to a theme park or somewhere. I don't want to do like something where I'm having to, please other people for 8 hours. I want to enjoy my time with the people I love, but just in the most relaxing way, without just coming off lazy and saying, I just wanted to sit on the couch, which I didn't. I just wanted to be in my home and do home things. But it was nice. It was a good day. One of the main reasons I still don't have a voice is that I've been doing 4 shows a week still. But we're taking this Monday off. I'm going on vacation. So my wife was telling me that I should do a remote episode from where we are on vacation. Kind of picture this, but sitting on one of those lawn chairs by the pool. I think it would be funny, but I'd rather recap after everything's done and tell y'all how everything went down. Early reports were that it was going to rain where we're heading, but I think we'll be fine. But I'm excited. I think, I'm playing shows over the weekend prior to leaving. We're leaving on Monday, and somebody mentioned once that you need a couple days before your vacation, like a different type of vacation, right? Like you got to get your affairs in order and do work, right, to get ready for your vacation. Sometimes the vacation is harder work than actual real work. I mean, in terms of having to pack your clothes and plan for what you have to buy for the ice chests and um, dropping the dog off for she's being boarded with a dog sitter. And I mean, the list goes on, prepping the house to leave alone, and the shopping and everything that it goes on to, the booking of the reservations and so on and so on and so on. But so a couple days before, I still have shows, right? So I'm playing tomorrow and Sunday. But outside of that, it's not going to be, these next 2 days are not relaxing for me. I'm going to go do things, doing all the prep stuff. And so that when you hit that vacation, that you can actually just, so some days that I'm out there are going to just be, chill days, vacation days. I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm really going to try to nurse the things like gargle salt and get plenty of rest and just chill out. Hopefully when I come back, I'll be remotely better. Partially also, it's been rough. Like, it's been double-ended. Like, on the one hand, my voice hasn't been 100%, and I can tell that I'm not doing everything I want to be doing vocally. But also, it's been a while since we've had a good quality, like an audience that was down. A lot of our shows were falling on the NBA finals, and in Texas, everybody was kind of like, most people were all about Dallas being in the finals. And look, I don't watch basketball. I don't watch sports. I have a problem with organized sports in like a professional sense. And it's nothing I want to get into. It used to have a lot to do with referees kind of controlling the game more than I would like to admit that they have the power to do so. But, I was watching the finals, and all I can say in terms of, because you're playing music, and out of the corner of your eye, you check the game, and you're watching the game, and people are there, and which is what my point is, but I'll get back to it, that the people were just there for the game, or they're just not really honed into what you're doing. They're not paying attention. But I will say that I felt that Dallas lost the series. And I mean, you talk about armchair quarterbacks. This is even worse because I don't even watch the sport. I have no right. But I'll say it anyway. When I was watching, all I was really seeing was that Dallas wasn't rebounding. They weren't getting second chance opportunities. They were getting beaten. The Celtics wanted it more on that end of the court. I don't know if people may say that that's phooey, and may not be true, but anyway, that's my 2 cents about that, and it's really not that important. I don't really care, but I'm not talking about their gumption or their heart or whatever. I'm just saying it just seemed like they dragged on that end. They weren't really trying. Anyway, my voice really hurts. My throat hurts. At work, it was nice kind of getting ready to leave, like my team, they were reassuring me that they were gonna make me. One of the things they said was that they were gonna work hard to make me look good while I was gone, and that everything is set up for success for them, and it means a lot as a manager. I got several compliments this week on my team, and that in the grand scheme of things, I guess whether or not I think my dad always used to say that your work said something about you as a man. It said something about you as a human being. Your work ethic and your the pride you took in a job well done. Anyway, we'll round that up on the Father's Day section with that. I remember there was a Stephen King book. Well, not one book, but it was a series called the Gunslinger series. And he would say, remember the face of your father. Which I always interpreted as like that, to sort of that we are an extension of where we come from, and to remember where we came from, and and honor their legacy by our actions. So anyway, I'm going to do the next episode on next Friday, so it's going to be a week. So I'm going to also say that this is why this happened this time. It's not, but I'm just going to say it because I won't be back in town until the end of the week. So, I'm thinking about, I'm having this crisis or this dilemma where I'm thinking about no longer doing weekday shows. 2-3 hours of sleep is just it's not working for me. I think it's inevitably affecting my mind. I feel like, I read about early onset Alzheimer's, and whenever I get, spacey and start not remembering things, I always think about my dad, and I think about, I don't want that to be my future, and I think messing up my, not sleeping enough, not getting enough rest, I think would be detrimental. I haven't had a drink of alcohol. It's been like 3 weeks, and no sodas, no Cokes or things like that. I'm drinking sparkle water. No, So I've been able to maintain that. Hopefully I can keep that up. My wife's already tried to put a couple times in there saying, we're going to be on vacation and you should kind of just do vacation-y things. And that's a slippery slope, especially for an addict that, wants to stay in those comfort zones. Anyway, happy 100th episode. I'm very excited that I made it this far, and I know it's very much an exercise in my own, for myself. It's not something that I'm really doing for others, and other than it is a selfish plight because I'm not expecting anybody to hear it. I just want to force myself to take this time and to share these thoughts with accountability and with a sense of honesty and that I feel like the need to do it in the way that I do. So I thank everybody for coming by, even if you just listen to 5 minutes. It's cool. Please message me at lostlikemike@gmail.com. I enjoy the correspondence, and I'm gonna let you go, and we'll talk next week. Okay.